Hello, everyone. So we are doing Up Level Live session number 2, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be doing it with the one and only, the Shira Lazar. Couple of housekeeping things first. So if you were with us last week, you know that the best way to engage is through the chat. You'll find the chat on the right of your screen. So start engaging right now. Tell us where you're from, what you are excited to hear about, all that good stuff. If you have a question, look below. There is the Ask a Question section. So start putting your questions there right now. And that way people can start upvoting them so that we can start to get our, questions all together for the Q&A session at the very end. So remember, chat to your right. Ask a Question is down below so that we can separate your questions from the chat. And to tell you a little bit about me, so I'm Robin Cohen. I'm the co-founder of UpLevel. We are a micro-learning online experience. We just launched a couple of weeks ago. We are connecting with awesome thought leaders and, experts in all sorts of fields because we want to be able to give, tidbits of information, education, if you're looking for a job, if you want to up-level your career, if you want to start a business, all that good stuff. You're going to find it here. And all of our UpLevel Live sessions, in case you missed it, will be on the website. And so I just want to say, so Shira, before I do the formal introduction, I just want to say that we met in Los Angeles 12 years ago.
Oh my God, yeah.
12 years
over
ago?
a decade.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And it's like social media kind of keeps you together, but it kind of, doesn't because you're not exactly communicating. But I want to just say how lucky I am that we are still, connected after all these years.
I love that.
And with your crazy schedule that you were willing to come on and do this. So I'm so super grateful to you for that and for your time. And so, yeah, let me just give the audience a little bit of your background. So Shira is the founder CEO of the Emmy Nominated digital media brand, What's Trending. And in October of 2018, she became the host of the afternoon drive show, Let's Go There, weekdays on the first national LGBTQ plus station, Channel Q, syndicated and on radio.com. In her spare time, she loves sharing her passion for curiosity, joyful living, and mindfulness on her own social platforms at Shira Lazar. So just go to @Shira Lazar on any of the social platforms. You'll be able to find her there. And while in quarantine with the rest of us, somehow Shira was able to launch PeaceInside.Live in April of 2020. It's a platform with free live Zoom classes daily around mindfulness, meditation, and movement. Shira, if I forgot anything, if you want to add anything to that.
It's like speed dating. That's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. So I want to just let everyone know that this session is going to be a little different from last week. Scott Clary was graceful and kind enough to give us a whole presentation on, how to leverage LinkedIn for your career, for your business, and what it really means to have a personal brand. This time around, we are going to do a Q&A with Shira, and so we're going to kind of walk through what we are discussing today, which is finding passion and inner peace during times of uncertainty, as we are all experiencing right now.
Yep.
So, Shira, before we jump into all of that, I want the audience to know, when did you decide to create and start What's Trending?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me and for that lovely introduction. What's Trending started in 2011. We launched in 2011. The idea started in 2009, probably. It took 2 years to launch from maybe idea to then finally, starting it. But basically, what I saw as I was at CBS News and starting to cover internet culture, social media trends, viral stars, there wasn't really a show by the internet for the internet. So at the time I had a blog on cbsnews.com. I was interviewing, again, these viral stars before it was cool to do it, before Ellen and morning shows were doing it. And I noticed that a lot of people would be blogging and posting about these talent, but they weren't actually interviewing them. So that became very much my niche. I was kind of bringing the red carpet to these talents and respecting the fact, and I was actually fascinated and curious by the fact that they were creating these online movements. For me, this was like the new thing, right? Because me, myself, I hadn't been fully really accepted by mainstream media, even though at the time I'd been working for CBS News.
Right.
I always had a foot in traditional media and a foot in, guerrilla digital media.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how we met, right? I was at the intersection of it. And I was at the intersection of it because of my curiosity and passion for, I think, startup culture and entrepreneurship. And, but I loved storytelling and obviously grew up looking up to the Ryan Seacrests and the Oprahs and the Katie Couric's. But I was like, what's going to be my thing? And so while I was at cbsnews.com, I started figuring out what that thing was. And after having some success in doing some of those interviews, I was like, well, why don't we just do a show around this? So when What's Trending launched in 2011, and it took 2 years from idea to launch, we needed to get a sponsor on board because the vision was very high quality, next level. We wanted to bring broadcast quality, to this space. We didn't want it just to be a web show. So that was very clear to us. So it took 2 years to get this brand on board, and we worked with CBS News on it. And then we launched, in 2011. So that's kind of a bit of a backstory. We really saw that there was an increase in interest and obviously not just social media, but the culture and the talent around it, as well as I saw how traditional talent were moving into the space as well. Of course, now it's how we live, right?
Yeah.
But at the time, it's funny because when people talk to me who were on the show or whose management got their talent on my show at the time, like big stars, they were like, no one was doing this at the time. Like if we were launching a web series or had a website or a digital campaign, no one cared except you. And so we felt like you fully would like see it and hear our vision. And it was really a space for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. No, I mean, I think that in looking at it, all these years that you were really on the forefront, before kind of like where we are right now, where, there is just so much content and people embracing the digital sphere for whatever that looks like, right? And so you were on the forefront of that. And I think that like if I can say that you've been able to stay in it, grow it, scale it, as we've all been trying to figure out, like, what does this digital revolution look like, And I think it's definitely a testament to what you've been able to build with What's Trending. So just want to kind of like throw that out there.
But I'll say it wasn't always just like this. The curve or my graph wasn't like this. It was like that. Like as we see all those, right? So I would get to I would get to a place of growth. It would plateau, and then something would happen, and I'd go 5 steps back, and then I would kind of many times I would let go or kind of just be like, I don't even know what's going to happen. Should I just shut everything down? And then kind of in the process of letting it go, it would find a life of its own again, and then I'd be like, oh, I guess it's heading in that direction. And I think because it was so much my baby and I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, it wasn't just a thing I was doing because it was hot at the time. It was such a reflection of me and my passions at the time. And you could say it still is, although I have definitely personally shifted and I have different interests than I did 10 years ago, obviously. I'm 37 now. When I was 27 and launched this, it was different for me, but it still continues. But that's it. I think just my passion overall for finding spaces that empower emerging talent and emerging voices. That's kind of the common thread in this.
Yeah. I totally agree. And so just to maybe even give people deeper context here, how does your team, prepare for each show, and then tell people, where they can tune in, how they can tune in, so they really can be connected to you and what's trending?
Yeah, well, What's Trending started as a show. We then ended up developing more into a media brand and a publisher. So right now on our site, our YouTube channel, our social media, you can find different types of content, from blog posts to GIFs to, you know what I mean? Like videos, obviously we're definitely more so video-based storytelling. But it's definitely short form storytelling around, pop culture, the news through the lens of social media. And so you can find that everywhere at What's Trending. It's very easy.
Okay, good. I'm telling people that they've got to start asking your questions.
Yeah, TikTok, so everywhere.
At What's Trending.
Yes, sure.
So in launching PeaceInside.Live, tell us a little bit about that, why you started it, and why you think now is the best time to start a business.
Yeah, well, through going through that up and down journey with What's Trending in my own business and entrepreneurial journey, I started realizing that it was never going to be perfect. Whenever I had a win, right, or a quarter or a year where I was like, I'm on it, ultimately I'd hit some sort of roadblock. And so I started realizing, like, wow, this is interesting. Like, this is the journey. It's just like you have gains, you have losses, then you have to get back up again. And so I was like, if I'm relying on this thing I'm creating to fulfill my joy or happiness, wow, that's going to be a very sad, lonely journey. And so that's when I started doing my own, really inner work, looking into personal growth. I read The Artist's Way. I was feeling at the time, I guess, really lost because I kept on hitting these walls, where I was almost at the point of bankruptcy. And I was like, why am I doing this work if this is always my destiny? And like, I know that I have something special. Like, I know my expertise. Like, I could definitely drag myself if I want to drag myself. But I also, like, there are moments where I know that I have something here, but why do I keep hitting a wall? And you could say that's because the universe was like, look in the other direction. Like, you're kind of like banging down the same door, expecting for a response, and you're not getting it. So what else is out there? And I also would say, because of the feeling of failure, I was feeling very, I would say there was a bit of, not fully depression, but I was feeling very depressed about it. I felt like I lost my zest, my passion, my why. I was just like feeling like, and I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with this or with myself, my own vision. And so starting to do my own personal growth work and, reading a book like The Artist's Way, I started reconnecting with really what makes me happy, my why, my joy, my inner child. And that led me in so many different directions over the past few years, to go, going through these really intense personal growth workshops and really looking at, my childhood and my trauma and purging that emotion and letting it go. And all of that started to inform my work. And it started to actually, like, whether my work was working out or not, I felt more peace and calm about it. And that led me to going on a trip, signing up for a trip to go to Everest Base Camp in Nepal in April of 2019 with my friend Jordana, who I started Peace Inside Live with. Jordana and I had known each other for 15 years. She had worked as an ad exec, but also left to become a trainer, facilitator, coach, healer. And she had started a retreats company called 180 Retreats. And so when I saw what she was doing, and I was like inspired, like, oh, you get to go to the Himalayas and just, this is your life now? What the fuck? I want to do this. So I found out that her next trip was going to Everest Base Camp, which is the base of Everest. And it's a 10-day trek through the Himalayas, very physically and mentally challenging, to say the least.
I'm sure.
So through that, that experience was life-changing, as you can imagine. And her and I would have a lot of conversations about, how do I get to bring all these things that I'm passionate about and curious about that I'm experiencing in my life behind the scenes. How can I bring it to the forefront of my work and integrate it into the work I've always done? Because before that, it was always about pop culture. So you could see how in my mind, I'm like, oh, people might think this is cheesy and weird. And am I trying too hard? And is like, Shira's gone off the deep end. Like, I started questioning myself a lot. But after Everest and through my radio show too, I started really being clear about my voice and speaking my truth and the importance of that. And then, you know, the past year, me and Jordana were co-creating a lot. We did a series on my IGTV called The Weekly Mind Shift. So I started integrating, you know, all this stuff and mindfulness into my own content. And when quarantine hit, she was in Thailand working, and she was about to do a physical retreat again. But then everything happened. She was in quarantine over there. She ended up going virtual and doing a virtual retreat. And I did this virtual retreat, and like now we're all virtual, but you know, like if you think about in March, you know, end of March, it was like still really weird, you know, like virtual. How is this all going to happen? Right.
Yeah.
And so I experienced it though. And there was a bunch of sessions in one day. It was all about, you know, mindfulness and all these classes. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. Like, I can't believe this worked. And people were there from around the world. So that kind of inspired us to create Peace Inside Live as a daily community platform. And yeah, we started in April 2019, and we recognized the need for all of us to create peace inside, literally and figuratively, during this time. We're stuck inside. We're in need of community. We're in need to, you know, I would say, find peace in uncertainty. And so we have facilitators from around the world. We do these virtual live Zoom sessions daily, and they're donation based. So we wanted to make it accessible to everyone because of everything that was happening right now. And we have workshops on the weekend and conversations with leaders in the space. So like that, it was kind of the culmination of our friendship, our backgrounds, my passion for it, and just like what I saw as really what we need in the future, because we can't expect there to be change outside of us unless there's change inside of us. Yeah,
no, exactly. And, you know, and with that said, so on one side of it, right, it's, you know, there's other people that are dealing with this, you know, pandemic, this quarantine, in a really, you know, courageous way. And then there's obviously people that are really struggling with it. And so PeaceInside.Live, I mean, makes sense, right? Because people still want to be able to somehow connect and somehow feel like a sense of, you know, empowerment, or just kind of feel good. Or the flip side of that is, you know, is now a good time to start a business, and why?
I think anytime's a good time. If you have an idea that you care about and you are really passionate about it, I'll tell you a story. When What's Trending, you know, we started with CBS News, and then we had a very public fallout, and I was fired very publicly, and I was in a very dark place. Not to name drop, but this is a great story. You know, I'd been crying all day. My eyes were swollen, and we wanted to have some sort of crazy rebound. We got very publicly fired on Saturday morning. So in our heads, me and my co-founder were like, Monday, we're gonna have a press release. We're gonna be like next level, right? And so at the time, I was like, who do I know that has power in some way or could do something with this? I was like, Mark Cuban. So I call Mark Cuban or text him, whatever. We end up meeting. He was coming in town to shoot Shark Tank. And this was also, remember, this is 2011. It's a bit of a different time. But so he goes to me. He's like, listen, I'm not going to give you money. But are you saying, he goes, one, are you passionate about what you're doing? Do you care about it? And I go, well, yeah, if I wasn't doing this, someone else would be. He goes, so you're saying you can't make it happen and figure it out? You're just saying that something you're that passionate about, you're just going to let go of because in your head, you can't do it because you need X, Y, and Z to make it happen. Yeah. Listen, I think we can have the vision, the big idea of like, oh, down the line, I see it being this, but like, you have to start somewhere, start simple. And also like, I've done what's the workshop where you workshop an idea for a startup that it's like a very simple idea. Oh my God. It's a way to workshop an idea. I'm blanking on it. There's like there's you remember, no, but this is actually really good for people. I probably should look it up in my emails. But it's a way to simplify the workshopping an idea to figure out if you want to jump into it or not. And of course, it starts with like, is there a why? Is there a solution or something you're trying to solve? And then is there a market for it? Because you could have an idea that you are passionate about, but then, you know, if there's no one that actually needs it, you shouldn't just do something because you're just like wanting to be a narcissist to listen to yourself. Like sometimes we have those ideas. We're like, yeah, this is the best thing. And you're like, but do people actually need it? And then sometimes, listen, you're an innovator and you're creating a need before people realize. So it's that balancing act. But you also, listen, we only have so much time on this earth and in our lives. And so it can be an uphill battle if you're trying to sell something that there might not be a need for. But I would say passion first and why first, and then there's mechanisms to figure it out. I think for us, we felt there was a huge need, and we're starting simple. It's not like, you know, we're bootstrapping this. It's an MVP. We're basically seeing if there's a market for it. And then from there, I'm saying, okay, if there is, do we go after money? Like, let's take it stage by stage and let the community tell us what they want versus telling the community what I think they want and growing from there. I think that we hear these success stories, you know, from startup communities, like we all want to be that overnight thing, or we all want to come up with that brilliant idea. But that also is a recipe for disappointment, because why are you really doing it? Are you really doing it for the end result, the goal? Because guess what? You got to enjoy the journey along the way, or else once again, it's going to be a very difficult life.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah. So every stage should be a win. And the goal is the journey, really. So I do think there's ways to start an idea without having to necessarily get a ton of money, with bootstrapping it, with kind of experimenting to see if it actually works, if people care, and then take it from there. Take it step by step while knowing you have a bigger intention or bigger vision. Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree. And my next question was about, you know, like, what's your best piece of advice for someone starting a business? And I think you touched on it, right? Is like, first you've got to find the passion, right? You've got to find your why. Yeah. And then you kind of execute from that standpoint. And I would agree with that. And I think that if you spend too much time in the analysis of your why, you know, or the analysis of your passion, then you'll probably never, ever launch it, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm in agreement. I completely agree with that. I think it's better to play than to just sit there on the sidelines watching. So for me personally, I rather make mistakes and make mistakes quickly and get up than be waiting or being like walking on eggshells, seeing like, okay, I'm so fearful of making a mistake that I'm not even going to make a move. You're never going to get anywhere in life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like, you kind of need to just embrace the fear and the failure. Like, that's the idea of it. Because perfection is not going to happen. You're going to make mistakes, but you need to be okay with that. And part of it also is leaving your ego at the door, realizing that the things that will happen aren't personal, and you got to just acknowledge that it happened and learn from it and move forward. And that's really, really it. Because once again, and the book that I'm reading right now, I love how like all my references, Elizabeth Gilbert. Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic. The story about how she had an idea, how ideas and creativity come to you. You're a vessel, but they'll leave you just as quickly as they came to you. If you don't jump on it, then you need to be okay with that being done by someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this now perfectly brings us into the next question, is how does someone tap into their passion, right? So it doesn't matter if it's for a business, right? It doesn't matter if it's even for a side hustle, or if it's about, you know, moving up in your career, right? Yeah. So it's like, how do you find it? How do you tap into it? And because like for me, and I think like you, I mean, I have, I think, a really good handful of passions, right? Yeah. And so in that handful of passions, I'm kind of like, okay, well, which one or two really like is like the burning fire within me, right? That I think about constantly, right? That I'm constantly researching, that I'm connecting with people. And so for me, that's how I've kind of tapped into my passions more. So how would you help someone in understanding, how do you tap into your passion?
I'm going to answer that. Lean startup model is the model, by the way. If you're workshopping an idea, the lean startup model, great way to figure out before you jump into and spend a ton of money and ton of time, do that the workshop of that. And you could sign up for, there's like places that do it, accelerators or companies that do it, or you could, if you're smart enough, probably go through it yourself through a book. Just wanted to put that out there because I was like, what? I wanted to reference it. And then I would say also, passion is important. The why, while I said all this in terms of investigating if there's a market, blah, blah, blah. The reason why the why and the passion is so important and the care is because in those moments where you will feel like a failure and you will feel like it's not working, that will push you through, right? That will push you through because it's so in your blood. It's like, you can't, it's part of you. It's just like your expression is entangled in that. And, you can't see it otherwise. That said, I also think there's mental health issues around that. And we've seen that in the startup world. So be entangled, but also know that what you create and what it is outside of you, you can only control so much. So it's this balancing act, right? Even though it's like your baby, an expression of you, just like a child, you can only do so much. You let it go and grow. And you have to kind of also detach from it in a healthy way. So that's also one thing, because the only way for it to grow is for you not to have like anxious attachment with it. Just like a relationship. Secure attachment, read the book Attached. So finding your passion. For me, I have had different passions along my path. And now at this point, I can look back and say, oh, I got it. Because like the first time when I was younger, when I started getting into broadcasting, I got like an adrenaline rush. Like I would do this thing at all hours. And I'm like, oh, I felt like I was falling in love. Now that feeling is what I felt when I was younger. It's shifted a bit as I've gotten older.
Of course.
I think that when you're in that flow and you feel like, wow, I'm getting high off of this, that's definitely a sign you're in the right direction. And this is something for you. If you get more energized by something than drained by something, that's a sign that's right for you. Right before I started Peace Inside Live, I had a really interesting moment, which actually goes against how I originally discovered my passion for broadcasting. Because when I was younger, my sign was that adrenaline energy. And I think that just like falling in love when you're younger, like that's what I'm looking for. I think as you get older, you're actually looking for more calm, peaceful energy as something you want to align with. And what I realized is right before the whole quarantine and everything and the pandemic hit, I was at a yoga class and I just felt so like, so aligned in that moment, just being there. And I go, wow, if I feel that way here, like in every moment of my life, I always said, how could I bring this into my work? So why aren't I feeling these feelings that I feel here in this part of my life? Right. And then a lot of people might say, well, it's a yoga class. Like, that's why you go to yoga to feel these good things. But I'm like, for me, I'm like, well, why can't I feel this way all the time? Meaning of course, life happens. And it's not like it's always kumbaya. But saying like, why don't I enable those things to happen more in my life? Why am I only keeping it into one specific space? And so that was interesting because that really helped inform me when I started Peace Inside Live, because I remember how amazing I felt in that space. And I was like, oh, I wonder what it's like to have a studio where you can just bring people together and like they feel like this in that space. Like, how amazing is that? And so that really stayed in my mind as I started doing this. And then every time we're like on Zoom and there's a bunch of people in a class and then everyone's giving feedback after a class, and there's people who are just starting to do meditation. They've never done it, or maybe they've done it all the time and they're experts, but that they're saying, oh, this moment is exactly what they needed today. They were really feeling down and like this changed their life or made them realize that they are worthy and like they are deserving of everything. Like in those moments, I'm like, that's what I want for myself. And I think the more we can be clear about what we want for ourselves, like, and how beautiful that is, like, I love giving that to others too.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And
so I don't know if I answered that question. That was like
no, it's perfect, because I think that what you say is, it's almost about like making sure that it, like you said, aligns with you, right? That it really like makes sense and embodies you and whatever your life goals are, right? So I think that
how do you create an integrated lifestyle? Like, so that's the thing is I think in the past it was like, oh, this is my work and this is who I am personally. I'm looking at a 360 lifestyle right now where it's like, how do I embody Shira in every area of my life? So I'm true to me in all those areas. And that it's challenging because it might make you relook at your life in many ways. And that could be scary because you might realize like, oh crap, like I'm not aligned in many areas of my life. And there's going to need to be some changes and that's not going to be easy. But I promise the work is worthwhile on the other side of it.
Yes, I agree. And so I think that what I would love to ask is, because obviously entrepreneurship is one thing, right? And then career is another, right? And of course, in entrepreneurship, they could be aligned, but there are people that, you know, they want to work for a great company, right? And they want to be able to grow their career. So in this reality that we're all living through right now, right? Many people have lost their jobs or they're trying to hold on to their job. They're even considering, you know, a career change. What advice do you have for those people that really are the ones who are like, you know what, entrepreneurship is not for me, right?
That's okay. Do you. Do not get pressured by all these Instagram hustlers. If it doesn't feel right for you, then don't do it. Do not, like, honestly, because guess what? People can't create their ideas and grow their visions without people who just want to help and support the process. So we're all needed in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
And we're all important and we're all valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like what I say, because like, do not just create something to create it. Do not feel left out or like you're not valuable because you're not like hustling it and, you know, like not Gary Vaynerchukking it, you know, like, you, whatever you are, wherever you are in your journey is meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. And so any specific career advice for those people in terms of, you know, just being able to survive the now, or, you know, what advice would you give to them?
There's a few things. Well, one, I also want to go back to the fact that, like, if you have an idea, like, and a friend of mine has said this, Sean Spector, actually, who has a podcast as well. He gives advice and consults with entrepreneurs. He was like, if you have a job, use that as investment for your idea. Like, it's not, and you'll know when it's right to finally quit that job and move into that space. Like, I believe in win-wins. I believe that you can make it, both of it happen. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be like having your day job and then doing a master's, right? But people do it all the time. And once again, that if you're that passionate about it, if you think that this is needed, your life will not be purposeful without this. You will regret not having jumped on this idea now. Then just do it. You know what I mean? Of course, like, then be aware of burnout. Be aware of what you need to make sure you are present for yourself and others and the idea. Because if you are not healthy, then it won't work. So just saying, like, mentally, physically, spiritually. So that's where spiritual practices and these tools, daily routines or tools, are really important. And guess what? Some days, like, I look at everything like a baby. Well, I don't have kids, so this is like my baby reference. Like, I have What's Trending. I have my radio show. I have Peace Inside.Live. Some days, one thing needs more attention than the other. Some weeks or months, one of them is really sick. And I'm like, you know what? It doesn't mean I'm not putting effort in this area, but I'm saying, you're good right now. Like, I'm going to make sure you're supported. But like right now, this thing is sick and I need to give it some like focus right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And help that kid out, that child, that baby. But I would say for the, you know, I'm sensitive to the fact that people just need to survive right now. And I think that I think that thankfully there's a lot of creative ways to make money. And I think that don't feel embarrassed for whatever you feel you need to do. Like, whatever you need to do. If it allows you to put food on your table for yourself and your family and a roof on top of your heads, and that's what you need to do right now, knowing this is part of your journey and that it's temporary, even though like it might not feel like it, that's what you need to do. And I feel sad and bad that people will be like, oh, I can't believe I need to do this. I never thought this would be me, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And my hope is that they can take the shame away and just realize like, it's okay. And like, you are doing what you can do. And maybe this isn't your like quote unquote dream job, but guess what? Like, my hope is that they can find joy in the fact that they're healthy, like what they can be grateful for right now, like their health, their family, and that what they do matters, even if they think that because it's not a quote unquote maybe a good job or a great job, that what they're doing doesn't matter.
Fancy company.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of that has to do with societal expectations that we've then put on ourselves, and then we go into this like cycle that we're a failure, or like we're never going to get out of this. And like, I believe that we're going to get out of this. I believe that if I'm talking to someone, an individual, you're going to get out of this, and you are doing the best that you can do. So be kind to yourself. Like, just we need to be more kind to ourselves as we go through this. You know, and sometimes it is about simplifying. Like, I know there's years I've made much more money than I'm making right now. And I've lived in much nicer places, or I've had more money to buy X. And what helped to me is simplifying, saying like, do I really need all this stuff? And by simplifying and living within my means, or even below that, I actually, like, I realized my stress, a lot of it was coming from keeping up.
Yes,
and I was like, am I keeping up for me, for other people? And so I was like, well, you know, I'm keeping up. If you look at it, I'm keeping up for me because like, I want to feel successful. I want to feel like I've made it. I want to like, so, and then also when people come to my place, I want them to feel like I've made, like, it's that domino effect. But if you actually take all that away and really look at like, how can I make it so I could just do my thing, pay for what I can pay for. So it's like, and take that stress of all the extras away if you can. Like, so sometimes it is about just making as much money that you can make for those minimums.
Exactly. And I always say that everything is temporary, and I've been saying it for a while because that's like my coping mechanism, right? When like a stressful situation happens, or when I have, you know, lost a job. I've been in that position.
And sometimes it is about, like saying, okay, I'm going to do this right now. And then of course, then have visions, manifest, say like, this is where I want to go. And then be like doing this while you're working on all this other stuff. But once again, like, I think that we get into our own holes and shame because we think it doesn't look like X, what we thought it was going to look like. So
I agree.
Just saying it's okay. And like, just, I would say keep going and simplifying, but then also while having intention and realizing like you're worthy of whatever you want to make happen.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think there's a difference between passion and purpose?
I think it's intertwined. And sometimes though, a passion like to listen to music might not be my purpose, but however, I actually talked about this today. I think partially our purpose partially our purpose is to be present so we can deliver on who we're supposed to be and be who we are supposed to be in our truth. If you're not present, like, I think just being, like, that's the thing, is our purpose might be the fact that we're just here and existing. And can we find our purpose in simply just being present in this moment?
Yeah,
and part of that, in order to enjoy your passions, you can't even enjoy.
That sounds,
but you can't even enjoy your passions for music, that, if you can't even just recognize that your purpose is to exist and to be and be present and have gratitude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then there's also the fact that, okay, let's say that you do have your job, whatever that looks like. Well, you can always work on something that is purposeful or full of passion on the side. And that's actually really good for your soul. And it could be anything. It could be dance classes. It could be reading, whatever that looks like. So the passion and the purpose doesn't always have to be for your business, for your job, right?
Yeah.
It can just be as a way to feed your soul.
Yeah, I think that a a lot of times when people said, what was your purpose? And like, if you look back on your life, it was like that I loved, that I gave back. Like you never hear it say that I had a 500 person company and sold out and went public.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, or never.
Yeah.
Like you can look back like, wow, I had a lot of accolades, but like, I was really proud of the fact that I, like, I think our foundation needs to be from a place of purpose. So recognizing, and that comes from being still with yourself and saying, what makes me feel good? What drives me? That stillness, love, unconditional love, giving, service, truth. And like, then I feel like that fuels your passion and that fuels your purpose. But if you can't even sit with yourself to recognize that, I feel like you're just trying to acquire things based on like what we've been taught and conditioned is our purpose.
Exactly.
Like, I think the things that we've thought is our purpose in society is probably not really our purpose, which is why people like 20 years into a career, they're like, I thought this was my purpose and I'm lost now. It's because they didn't sit with themselves and actually be like, what makes you joyful? What makes you feel human? You know what I mean? What makes you feel a sense of real purpose? And that is something that isn't necessarily outside of you. It's in you, and it's fueled by how you express yourself and how you be. Yeah,
exactly. And so also, what we're talking about today is finding inner peace. And for me, I think that I've been on this inner peace journey for quite a long time. So I was introduced to meditation about 4 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since, almost every morning. And actually recently, I've totally changed my morning routine. My morning routine used to be, meditate, go work out, and start the day. And recently I've added in reading. Normally I would read at night. Right? And at night, I'm just exhausted and I just want to go to bed. Then I would feel this guilt, like I didn't read like a few pages tonight. And I have to tell you, the sense of inner peace that I've been able to create for myself recently because of adding that reading portion into my morning has been life-changing.
Yeah.
So what are your tools, your resources for people out there to find inner peace right now as a way just for your everyday or as a way to deal with this current reality?
Yeah, I think we all have routines and tools that work the best for us. So what works for me might not work for someone else. I do Vedic meditation. That's been huge. And you could obviously do meditation through a bunch of apps or even on PeaceInside.Live through our live virtual sessions. But I learned Vedic a few years back through an actual Vedic teacher, and that was in person. So I don't know how many people are doing that right now because you get a mantra. So you kind of learn to fall back on this mantra that's like just a sound. It's not even a word that's recognizable. So that's been really big for me in terms of just slowing me down to be less reactive.
Yeah.
And also getting the mess out of my head, right? Getting that trash out so I could focus on the things that matter and like create space for the things that matter. That's been huge. Breath work has been big, and not just like intense breath work sessions, but even this breath work app, which some of my friends created. It's breath and then WRK, WRK, like work without the O.
Oh, yeah.
But then they teach different breaths like to wake you up or to energize you. And so like just even 3 breaths can help shift you completely, your body and your mind, your actual chemistry. So like breath is so important. We don't breathe enough.
Absolutely.
I mean, when's the last time we did that? Yeah. I mean, even me, and I'm the worst. Trust me. I'm a natural hyper person. So sometimes someone will go to me, I haven't heard you breathe once. Talking. I don't hear you breathe. So I'm learning and like breathing through your nose. I think that some people are into the Wim Hofs, love Wim Hof, Iceman. And then also movement, just being physical, moving your body, opening up blocks. Yes. And then I would say like letting yourself feel when you feel, crying. Like if you wake up, like acknowledge if you're feeling sad or bad. We're going so quickly, we tend to not acknowledge our feelings, and then we think that they just go away, but when we're just like bottling them up and they come out in different areas of our life, right, in different ways. And so when we acknowledge, then we can then take responsibility versus putting it out on other people or being reactive, right? So I think that those are very healthy behaviors and routines. And then journaling in the morning. So like the real things, I mean, these are all things, but like the morning thing is definitely stretching a bit, having a sense of my body. Like, what does my body mean right now? Where am I feeling tight? Getting like that flow going, because we're all energy. So I'm not all tightened up. Like, how am I supposed to create or flow or be creative? I'm like this. No, it doesn't work. And then the breath and the meditation are like, and then the journaling are like the very daily things. Then I think it's what you put inside your body also. Like, what are you putting inside your body? How are you treating your body? Are you treating it like a kingdom, or are you treating it like hell? You know, it's like, so you need to be clear about that. And that has been, all of that awareness has been a game changer, because even, it's not just about the morning routine. That is huge. And for me, 8 hours of sleep. I try to do less. But I'm sorry, I did it yesterday. Every time I do it, I think, I could do it. I'm going to stay up late, get this done. The next day, I'm like an emotional mess. And you need to recognize what's good for you. And part of that is being super self-aware.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are some people that can function on 5-6 hours of sleep every day. There are days when sometimes I don't have a choice and I'm fine and I can.
I don't have kids, by the way, so like I get it, but like your brain will start eating itself if you get less sleep. So just like, but be aware of what you need, because we tend to look at everyone else, what they're doing, and be like, if we don't measure up, we feel bad about ourselves, or we feel like something's wrong with us. That goes back to like, spend time to get to know yourself. What works for you? What doesn't? Where do you feel at your best? Where do you feel, yourself fully? Where do you feel like in love with you? And then use that as a barometer for where you want to go.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And reading. Yes. Reading. I have so many books by my.
I love that. You should text me a couple of the books that you're reading. And so as part of the recap, I'll be able to send that out to people so that they can use as like resources.
Yeah.
One final question, which is just a fun question, because I know that I'm curious about it, and I'm sure some other people are too. But, of all the years that you've been doing What's Trending, and, you've obviously interviewed a ton of people, what have been maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite guests?
I used to have a hard time answering this. And I feel like there's so many who I would love to interview that I haven't interviewed. Definitely, Joan Rivers was one of my favorites.
Okay.
I interviewed her for an hour at Internet Week in New York, and I was so scared to interview her because she's intimidating, and she will drag you. Yeah. I was like, this is either going to go one way or the other way. And I watched her documentary. I did my research. Like, to be honest, I'm one of those interviewers, like, I don't over research. I go in with enough, but also with a lot of curiosity. Kind of like Larry King. I don't know if that's an excuse not to do more of that work, but Larry King says that too. Like, he goes in with curiosity. But I also think you want to ask things that fans would know, but also you want to ask things that like the person who's like knows her just like you might know her in a general sense.
Yeah.
And so we did that conversation. It was just amazing. And then afterwards, I just felt it was one of those, like, I was like, we're in a flow. Like, wow, she's just giving me so much time. And I feel, when you're interviewing someone, including someone of that stature, there is a Zen flow that begins, which is why I love interviewing people, where you're just like throwing the energy ball back and forth, right? Yeah. And you're feeling like they see that you care, and they're swinging, they're hitting that ball. They're not saying, oh, I'm going to watch that ball fall to the ground and, embarrass you. Because people could do that. Or there's people that just feel a lack of connection with the interviewer, and it's awkward, and you could feel it, and it's like horrible.
100%.
So you go into it with an open heart and an open mind, and just being like, let them, I hope they know that I see them, that I hear them, and that I'm here to make them feel like they can share whatever they want to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that moment.
Yeah.
So it was very special. And then after the fact, she said to me, she goes, you're really good at what you do. And I was like,
you were like, signed, sealed, and
Yes,
delivered.
I will put
That's
that on my
awesome.
resume.
Yeah, coming from someone like that is massive validation for what you're doing, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, I mean, recently Jamila from The Good Place was really cool. I mean,
Okay.
I'm thinking about I've interviewed Deepak Chopra. There's people that I know I want to interview that would be like epic, like obviously the Oprahs or the Dalai Lamas I haven't interviewed, or
Right.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there's so many incredible people. Oh, you know who I love right now? Mating in Captivity. Esther Perel, huge fan of her.
Yes.
You know, in terms of celebrities, like it's funny. I've interviewed so many people, but you know, I think until more recently, until the What's Trending days and even my radio show now, finally I'm creating spaces, or those are spaces that we're dropping in a bit longer with people. It's
Right.
not just like a soundbite. You're actually having conversations with people and really getting a sense of like who they are and what they want.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. I mean, I have my dream people that, you know, I would love to get as well for these sessions. And so let's see what happens.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, who I've been able to secure so far, I'm pretty excited about. And, you know,
Good.
and having someone like you on, you know, has been
sweet.
very, you know, validating for me. So I want to get to a couple of the audience questions. So this one is, what's your advice for someone who wants to start their own business but is also in the job market and can't necessarily afford to go all in on their business idea? Can you do both, and should you? That's pretty awesome question.
I mean, I would personally, this is the thing. I would focus on getting a job right now. And then when you get that job, use that. If you do have a little extra money that you could put towards the business, then you could start focusing on that. However, like every day, if you do have X amount of hours you're spending looking for a job, and and then I'm going to put 2 hours a day to focus on my idea. I don't think that means you're sacrificing looking for a job. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that you could put aside a few hours each day for your idea while doing it.
Yeah.
But with that said, I would, focus on getting that job. And then when you do get it, like instead of putting how much money we put aside for going out to eat or Starbucks or whatever, or delivery, put that money, you'd be surprised how much money we spend on other things. And then you could be like, I'm going to put that money into my project. So for instance, I live at a house with my friend, and it's actually more affordable than having my own place. That means that the money I would typically spend on rent, which I felt like I was throwing away, or that extra chunk, I'm putting towards my projects. I'm putting towards an editor for my social media. I'm putting it towards hosting my website for PeaceInside.Live. It's like everything is a choice, right?
Yeah.
And so like if you have, you don't need to have huge means, but if you have a little extra money, it's like, where do you want to choose to spend it? Like, or how do you want to choose to spend it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's great, because there was a quote that I came across today, and I don't remember the full quote, but part of it was about, what are you really willing to sacrifice, right, for that ultimate goal, right? And sometimes it has to be whatever maybe your living arrangements are, or the fact that you need a full-time job, and maybe, your entrepreneurial dreams are a side hustle, but there's always going to be a sacrifice somewhere.
Yeah, maybe you don't have as many subscriptions to how many like freaking Disney Plus and all that. Like, well, even though that's like $10 a month, but it adds up. And then also I think that's where it helps to have a co-founder and a partner in crime to do this with, because then if you're spending 2 hours and they're spending 2 hours, I don't know, or a few hours, that's like half a day on the idea. So like I've never been the type that likes to do things alone, because I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I'd rather have someone like add to that than just have to do it all on my own. So I would say like finding co-founders or partners who really want to who see the vision and want to do it with you and add value and add something to your gaps or your holes is the ideal, because then you could also all put some money to it, say like whatever jobs you all have, or time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question I have is, have you ever been at a point in your career where you did not succeed or reach your goal and stopped to do something else? If so, do you have any advice regarding how to know when to stop something and move
That's hard.
on?
That's like a hard one for me because I should have stopped a few things. Like many people think I should have stopped What's Trending a long time ago. I mean, even Gary Vaynerchuk was like, I don't get why do you just shut that company down, Shira? Why do you keep going? Just start like fresh. Why do you keep holding on to this?
Yeah.
And I think you need to, that goes back to looking really deep inside of yourself and saying, why are you continuing to do this? For me, at every point, I actually had many points where I was willing to let go of What's Trending and shut it down. And then something would happen. We'd either get a huge contract. And yes, I could have said no to those things, but then I was like, oh, but then I could get money for those things, then continue this thing that I love. So it's like, there's always like wins and losses or, gains and losses to something.
Yeah.
So it's really up to you to look at that and saying like, is this worthwhile? Is it worth my time, energy? I created a process with my company where I didn't have to be as hands-on. And guess what? I also took a huge dip in revenue because I decided to stop going after a lot of our brand deals. It wasn't bringing me joy. So in that, I got to a place where it could have shut down, and because of other revenue streams that came in that were more, less hands-on and that like we're just coming in. I was able to create an option to continue, right? But like I do think you need to put everything on the table. You need to say like, what are the positives of continuing this, the benefits?
Yep.
And what are the what are the negatives and what are like the things holding me back? So I think you need to like create those options for yourself in that list. And if the negatives outweigh the positives, then I think you know your answer. And you have to also look at
absolutely.
I
can share my story.
Yeah.
Because, I started an initiative last year. So I lost my job last year. COVID wasn't around, and I started an initiative and worked my butt off and was hoping that, okay, if I get to a certain point, maybe I can like do like that revenue, right? Turn on like the revenue and maybe go full force ahead. Well, because of COVID, because of where we are right now, I had to take a step back and be like, okay, you know what? This isn't going in the direction that makes the most sense. And then I've taken another leap of faith, in starting my whole up level, live session, because to me that makes sense right now and takes elements of a lot of the things that I've been doing up until now. And so, and I know a couple people that are, watching right now know that story. And, they probably saw my email go out about saying, hey, I'm embarking on something new. I hope that you'll join me and I hope that you'll support me, you know? And, so far it's been really, really positive. So, I think that you have to honestly take the ego, the pride, like all that stuff away. And like you said, you really have to look at the nuts and the bolts. What are the positives? What are the negatives, right? What makes sense, what doesn't, and then move forward from that position.
So, and beyond that, I would say that doesn't even make sense. Clear even that. If you're not even enjoying it, it's not making you happy.
Yeah.
Then it's like not even worth it. Then it's time to let it go. Because why are you even keeping it going? If it's money, because it brings a little money, but like, is that really worth it? Because you can make money doing something you also like. Like you have to believe that you can have happiness and money. That's real abundance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think that if you're saying like, this just doesn't bring me joy, it's not, and it doesn't even feel like it connects with my mission right now, then you're like, okay. But if you're saying, okay, this brings me money, I could be hands off on it, so it could create a bit more sustainability, and I won't feel as stressed out about it. And I could use that money to then fuel my other. It's like becomes like a place to get money for my other projects, like an investor. That becomes your investor. Your job, your other company that you maybe been holding on to, if it's doing well, becomes an investor in what you're starting. That said, it's not always the case, but it's really up to you to create that list and be clear about beyond that list, your mission in life, like what makes you happy. And if it doesn't even cut any of those things, then you need to make a decision and make a decision more quickly than otherwise. Like, don't wait it out. It's like a relationship. Don't wait it out and torture yourself. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Good point. Exactly. Well, we're coming to the end, of our session here. And again, I just want to thank everyone that joined us, and especially want to thank Shira. So remember, everyone, you can follow and tune into what's trending. You can also follow Shira at Shira Lazar on all the social platforms. For us, please follow us on Crowdcast because you will get alerts when we go live. You can also go to our website, moveuplevel.com, to follow all of the recaps and to rewatch any of these live sessions. Shira, this was awesome.
Oh,
so good to see you. Thrilled for everything that's happening right now. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for your knowledge and your appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thanks for having me. And thanks to everyone for watching and for being part of the conversation.
Definitely. Okay, everyone. Have a great night. Talk to you soon, Shira.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.